Is Brand New Day the best Spider-Man movie of all time? Alright, so I just finished watching Spider-Man Brand New Day, and my initial reaction is a bit underwhelming. It wasn't bad, not even close to bad actually, but based on the hype and my expectations for this movie and everybody else had going in, it just fully didn't hit the mark for me. But it was still awesome, and I still think the pros outweighed the cons, but there were some flaws that just really stuck out to me. We're gonna start with the positives though, because there's a lot to like here. First off, the action sequences, genuinely awesome. The choreography in this movie is some of the best we've seen in any Spider-Man film, period. Every move flows perfectly, nothing feels clunky, and a lot of it resembles a lot of the action sequences that we saw in the Spider-Man Insomniac game, so that was really fun to see too. Another positive was Tom Holland, because this might be his best performance as Spider-Man yet. He is firing on all cylinders in this movie. The emotion, the humor, the physicality, he's just at his best here. If you had any doubts about Tom, after everything that his character has gone through over the years, this movie should put those doubts to rest, and in my opinion, he certified himself as the best Spider-Man that we've seen. On top of that, the film just looks beautiful. It's shot incredibly well. The color grading is on point. It all just works visually. Now, one of my favorite parts of the entire movie is the dynamic between the Punisher and Spider-Man. Frank didn't really feel like he was a problem in this movie. Yes, of course, he couldn't really hang with some of these other characters in terms of skill, but he was a nice touch to this movie, and I think he complemented Peter really well. You have two characters with completely different worldviews, completely different methods, and watching them clash and then eventually work together is one of the highlights of the film. John Berthnall and Tom Holland have great chemistry together, and it really makes things work. The Punisher was definitely toned down to fit a PG audience, but I still think it worked, and it didn't take away too much from the character. Another thing I appreciated was the comic book beats. We had the sort of slideshow at the beginning of the movie that showed what Spider-Man was up to all these years, and they were literally covers from different comic books. They didn't feel cheesy to me. They felt authentic, and even at the end with the Punisher and Spider-Man, we saw that one too. That was also awesome, and I think that was a nice little touch, and it shows that the people making these movies are really paying attention to the detail. Then there's the tone of this movie. It felt a lot more grounded, more personal, and for a character like Spider-Man, that's exactly what you want. Peter Parker has always worked best when the stakes feel personal, when it's not about just saving the world, it's about him as a person, his relationships, his struggles. This movie leans into that a lot, and it focuses a lot of its storytelling off of it, and I think it works extremely well. Now, I have a lot to say about Sadie Sink's Jean Grey in this movie, but overall, I think Jean Grey's introduction into the MCU was done pretty well. Sadie Sink stepped into that role and did a fantastic job. She's gonna kill it as Jean Grey for many years. It was a great casting choice, and although I don't necessarily love what they did with her in the end, I think that she's gonna have a big role in this universe, and she'll have a ton of great other moments in the future. A lot of people are talking about the ending. Some people are saying they didn't like it. I thought it was different. It felt personal. It was a lot more focused on Peter and showing what he is as a character. And then, of course, you have the Punisher being the one who takes the shot. They have to rush into the hospital to save him. Jean Grey is literally breathing for him. It's all very personal, and I think a lot of people didn't love it because of that, but I think it worked for this movie and the message this movie was trying to tell, and it was always very personal. It was very focused on Peter and him finding himself and finding his identity in this new kind of world. And it showed in the end that he can be Peter Parker and he can be Spider-Man. It proved his humility. So there's a lot of positives with this movie, but I do want to get into some of the negatives. First up, MJ and Ned. Honestly, I thought we were done with them. After the ending of No Way Home, I thought that chapter of Peter's life, at least in terms of them knowing who he is and being deeply tied into his story, was closed. But I was obviously wrong. So having them come back as such important characters again kind of takes away from what No Way Home was building toward. It almost undercuts that ending. I think the storytelling and how they're going to remember who Peter is going to end up being fleshed out well, but I don't necessarily want to see it. I wanted that kind of closed off. I wanted Peter to be moving on to other things, maybe a Harry Osborn, maybe a Black Cat as a love interest, just something a little bit different that we haven't seen before. I didn't think we needed to go back to them, but it looks like they're going to be here for the long haul. Then there's the Hulk. Now, the Hulk and Bruce Banner do serve a purpose in this film, but he still feels underutilized once again. And what's worse is that by the end of this movie, he's just going to be looked at as a monster again to the general public. We're right back at square one with this character. It really feels like at this point at Marvel that just nobody knows what to do with the Hulk. He hasn't been his proper self in over a decade. He's getting shoehorned into other people's universes, franchise, and movies. He can't get anything going for himself. And I honestly really just don't know why, because the Hulk was always one of the pillars of Marvel, and he's always been one of the most popular characters characters, so I don't know why you don't want him integrated as his normal version in this universe. It honestly makes no sense. And then there's Jean Grey as the villain in this movie. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand her motivations, that part made sense, but they pushed her all the way to borderline being evil. And honestly, it felt blown out of proportion. She kind of felt like Wanda in like Multiverse of Madness here, and I don't know if that's the correct way to be introducing the character. The goal that she was trying to accomplish did not require her to kill innocent people. I feel like the Marvel team decided to go with this direction for the character because there's always been this X-Men versus the public narrative that's been in literally almost every X-Men story ever. They're always against the mutants and trying to suppress them in some sort of way, and this would kind of be a reason for them to be wanting to do that in this universe. So I understand what they're doing, but at the same time, this is the 4th Tom Holland Spider-Man movie, and we still don't really have a true arch rival for him if you really think about it. And I think if we're going to keep doing Holland movies, it's time to set something up for him. He needs to have a big arch rival that can kind of be a reoccurring villain that will always be there. Because if you're going to have Spider-Man running for this long, you might as well have some of these villains be coming back for more than one movie and building actual relationships with them. And we obviously know that Jean Grey is just going to be a one-off. So my general takeaways, is this the best Spider-Man movie ever? Probably not. And honestly, the main reason for that, I think, is that strong hero-villain dynamic that I was just talking about. I think you really do need that to become a truly great comic book movie. Look at The Dark Knight. Look at Endgame, honestly, with Thanos, you could even say. You need that pillar of a villain. And although I think Sadie Sink was great, and I think Jean Grey was great in this movie, that's not a true villain that carried the weight I feel is necessary to be that 10 out of 10 or best Spider-Man movie of all time. But here's the thing, in terms of visuals, in terms of choreography, in terms of how well they integrated some of the supporting characters into the story, I think this movie does better than any other Spider-Man movie we've got. Like, on a technical and character integration level, this might be the best one we've gotten yet. So for me, it's sitting around an 8.5, maybe a 9 out of 10. I think the villain arc really holds this movie back for me, but it's still a super enjoyable film. It's got its flaws for sure, the Jean Grey villain arc, the predictability of the ending, Hulk's continued mishandling, MJ and Ned coming back in a way that undercuts the ending of No Way Home. But at the end of the day, the action, the performances from Hall and Berthnall and some of the other cast, the Punisher Spider-Man dynamic, the action, I do still think the pros outweigh the cons, and for me, it's one of the better MCU movies, still probably in the top 10, and I think will be a major success. It's already broken the domestic box office record, and it's going to keep smashing records, and it's a movie that Marvel really needed at this point. There's been so many shitty years of shitty movies, and they finally went back to basics. They went back to Spider-Man, one of the biggest IPs in comics, and for the most part, they definitely got it right.